Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
That felt like a proper Thursday game. It's just one. There's a couple moments we'll remember. There's just a lot we'll forget, but I want everyone to remember in a couple months when we're talking about these teams to remember there's a lot of bad football that got played tonight. As long as some flashes of good, but there was a lot of bad football for long stretches and some sloppy play tonight.
For a 31-24 game that ended on the last play of the game, or one of the last plays in the game, a goal line fade that could have tied the game with under 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
It was a disgusting football game. There are certain details like, it wasn't so bad. And I agree. We'll look back at box scores and we'll see this in 6 months. Be like, that wasn't so bad. No. It was pretty bad. I think there were moments tonight for both you and I where we were just losing our minds watching aspects of this game. For me, it was every element of the Saints offense. Part of this is that I traded for Chris Olave in fantasy 2 weeks ago. So I have a newfound investment in the Saints offense. I have so many regrets.
Yeah.
I just have so many regrets. How can you leave a game where a guy on your fantasy team got 15 targets and feel as gross as I do right now? That I don't know, but we've arrived there. And for you, I think if the Jags ever throw the ball, Jamal Agnew led the Jaguars in targets.
Unbelievable.
At a certain point in the fourth quarter, you were going to turn into the Joker. You're just going to leave us. You're just going to wander into the streets, into the alleys, and never return.
Oh, shout out Kofi, but enough of the clown, enough of Agnew. And his first touch of the game was perfect. And this is because Zay Jones is out. Agnew is usually their gadget guy. And this is the importance of Zay Jones in the Jaguars offense. Unbelievable. I can't believe I'm saying those words, but apparently he is, because the games that he has not been in, there's been some frustrating target share throughout those games for whatever reason. But Agnew's first touch was perfect. They ran this like fake zone play with a pitch to Agnew. The Falcons ran it a couple of weeks ago against the Texans, but it was great. He gets tackled at the 1, and then they score a play later. But they were throwing him like real deal third down outside routes, and it was blowing my mind.
One against Marshawn Lattimore on third down in high leverage situations.
And the ball was fine. It was just like he's nuts, but you were throwing to him on third down, and it was just And like the call, I remember, the one that I think we're both talking about, it was they motioned him, and it was like to a little bunch formation. Calvin Ridley's the point man. Calvin Ridley, it was a double it was an out and corner combo. And I understand why Trevor Lawrence threw to the underneath one, the short one. Hey, it's third down. Let's just get the first down. It was like both popped open, but it's like there's a difference between throwing that to Zay Jones or Evan Ingram on third down or Christian Kirk or Calvin Ridley and Jamal Agnew. It's like those differences. They're all different kind of tiers that you put these guys at. And so you kind of got to know that too, especially when you have a matchup advantage or disadvantage.
Well, we're talking about frustrating moments. Let's talk about that one for Foster Moreau there at the end of the game. For all the nasty elements of what the Saints offense was tonight, they're one brutal drop away from tying that game in the final minute of the fourth quarter. Worth exploring maybe how we got to that point. Obviously, the Saints offense was grotesque for the first 2.5 quarters, for the first 3 quarters. Jags seemed to have that game in hand. Do you want to start with the frustrating aspects of watching the Jaguars offense over the final 2 quarters, or do you want to start with frustrating aspects of watching the Saints offense over most of that game?
I kind of already got my Jags ran out, because it was like their Jaguars first 15, like their first quarter, they're awesome. They brought the stat on.
I looked up the numbers on this because I was very curious about it. Okay. So their success rate in the first quarter tonight, 50% success rate. That would be that right there around the highest in the league. It's very, very good. In the final 3 quarters, 37.8%. Okay. So that gap is explainable all season. Yep. For the year, they are at 47% in the first quarter and 39% in the final 3 quarters. So that anecdotal kind of feeling where you watch their first 15 and it seems like they're rolling a little bit, they got some juice going. It's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
That's not a mirage. That's actually what it has felt like to watch the Jags play this season.
Yep.
And maybe that's a product of, Press Taylor, first-year play caller. We know what the first 15 is. We feel very good about the play call. When you actually have to start pulling the levers in game with some of those rhythms, struggling to find it a little bit. And I think this was another example of that. It still feels like they're making it harder than they need to. Like Calvin Ridley getting 1 target for the first 3 quarters of this game, and the way that they were distributing the ball, It just feels like there are easier solutions, even if overall, I think this is more a product of them just still not being settled on that side of the ball overall.
Yeah, and also it's a short week. That's not ideal when
Yeah,
one of your guys is out. That you gotta remember that Thursday night games are always a little wonky because how much carryover there is from the previous week. So it's not like just these ideal. Not every game playing as crisp, like as crisp as they can get it.
And the Saints defense is still very good.
Yes, there's some plays they made tonight that was Trevor Lawrence had a nice gutsy performance, nice little injured performance.
Their best plays today were his scrambles outside of that Christian Kirk touchdown.
It was cool to see him kind of just say F this and just like try and make some plays. So one time I thought he tucked it a little too early, but all the other times I understood why. Because they were running man coverage. And actually Kirk did a good job of pointing it out. He said, "Oh, they're running man coverage there. They're not expecting Trevor Lawrence to run." I wouldn't either. He was a game time decision apparently, or at least as close as you can get. So yeah, and first and second down, like the Jags moved the ball. Third down, they struggled. There's a lot of third downs tonight. There's a lot of fourth downs tonight. But I thought they were moving the ball fine. And then they just couldn't, they didn't have that chain mover, which I guess is Zay Jones. But I just thought they could find maybe some better answers than they did. I think there's a little bit of, straining going on. There's that near pick at the end of the first half that almost caught, like they ended up getting the field goal out of it. But right there is Agnew again running a deep out route against Marshawn Lattimore. And that happened twice on the same drive. And it's like, or same quarter. It's like, you kind of have to learn from these mistakes. We talked about on the Eagles earlier today too. It's like these new play callers kind of have to learn some of these mistakes of when they have to adapt to what's going on.
Trevor Lawrence tonight, 2.2 seconds average time to throw. He was pressured 3 times. Do you feel like he's getting rid of the ball a little too quickly? It almost feels like their passing game is so sped up right now. I would like to see just take a deep breath. They're getting rid of the ball so fast right now. It almost feels like more of a bug than a feature, like we've talked about with some other guys. Right now, it doesn't feel like it's a strength of who they are, even though it is a good positive aspect to his game typically.
Yeah, and I think it's more the design than him. I think Trevor Lawrence can kind of handle a lot. That whatever you want to throw at him, I would love to see him in a true Shanahan offense. I think that would be wonderful, getting him on the move. But I think they've leaned too much into it. I think there's some of it that's, there's so many bubbles in this offense. And I understand why you do those. Those are great controllers, and especially how defenses play, especially how the Saints play. But just like, okay, chill. I think you need more vertical element to it. But some of the guys that they have aren't maybe ideal for that. Christian Kirk is best as a mover, as we saw in the touchdown. He's best on like out routes and sail routes where he's on the move. And even guys, Calvin Ridley is on breaking routes, but they don't have that guy over the middle, the big tough guy, the big target that I think that maybe this offense needs. And I think that's why they go so much horizontal stuff. That's just me, just kind of theory. But yeah, I do think that they need more vertical element to their offense, or more at you kind of stuff, because it does feel so side to side. We saw it on the 4th and 1 where they run the ball. It's just, they don't have that at you identity right now.
Yeah, even there are offenses that don't necessarily have a ton of speed. Like, that's not the defining characteristic of who they are, that still feel really comfortable trying to push the ball vertically. Like the Lions are one of those teams to me. The Rams are one of those teams to me. Like, you can live in that world without a ton of burners. So trying to figure out, all right, how can we push the ball a little bit more? How can we be a little bit more aggressive while still understanding that our offensive line has some leakiness to it that we have to consider? So again, this team just seems to still be figuring it out 6 games into the year. Even like how they could lean on Ridley in some of those one-on-one situations against the Bills. Again, we saw none of that, where it felt like, all right, this is the version of the offense we thought we were going to see, where you have explosive runs, misdirection, getting the ball on the perimeter. And then when you need those one-on-one matchups on the outside, he's the guy that can provide it for you. And then that just disappears today. So it almost feels like they're playing whack-a-mole a little bit for some of the issues that they're experiencing on offense.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The Calvin Ridley usage is just weird tonight. Like them going 2 for 11 on 3rd down, and it's like, I want to say,
he only had game 2 for 11, and then 3 for 16, I believe, or 3 for 18. Was what the Saints were.
Saints had what, 6 4th down attempts. That's awesome. There's 8 4th down attempts in this game, but it's. That Bills game is like burning in my brain, because it was like, okay, I saw that, and the Colts game. And I feel like sometimes when I think Ridley is a dude, like a guy that's your alpha in your passing game. I hate using that term, ace in your passing game. But like it shouldn't be scheme dependent. It shouldn't be matchup dependent. You got to find ways to feed them touches.
Yeah,
Even
I
if
agree.
that's what's missing. I think they're overthinking it. They're basing it more on what they're getting coverage wise. Like, ooh, this is the best answer to this coverage, as opposed to what's our best matchup with our dudes. And I think that's maybe my best way to kind of summarize it. They're letting the scheme kind of dictate a lot, as opposed to these players that they have.
The Jags offense, while inconsistent and a tad frustrating, nothing compared to what we saw from the Saints for the first 3 quarters of this game. It was unwatchable for most of it. And you combine the complete inability to run the ball on early downs. There was a drive where they lined up in, I think, 12 or 13 personnel on first down. And it was just like maybe a 1-yard gain. And I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, that's what they want you to do. If you do that against this Jags team, if you're going to run the ball into their base personnel, that's exactly what they want you to do. And they did it consistently the entire game. 1 yard on first down, 2 yards on first down, just putting themselves in these horrid spots. And then you combine that with how static the offense feels.
Oh my God.
And it's 2023. Okay. We don't need to do the more play action and more motion equals good part of this. That's not what it is. But you need to do something,
a little something,
breathe life into your offense. If it's not an accident that most of the best offenses, most of the dynamic offenses in the NFL right now, the Dolphins, the Niners, the Rams even, are the ones that are using the most motion because it's dynamic. You're adding something. You're making things harder on a defense. The Saints are the opposite of that. They're dead last in the NFL in play action percentage coming into this game. And I believe, just looking at the raw numbers, some of the motion that the snap rates from ESPN put out, I think they're dead last in the percentage of their plays that involve pre-snap motion. And if you have Drew Brees, if you have a defense-destroying robot playing quarterback, making the picture static and just letting him go to work, fine. Like, if that's who you want to be, I understand that. I think that there are easier ways to win in the NFL right now, but that's not who you are anymore. No. So you had Andy Dalton last year. You have Derek Carr this year. That model of offense with your current offensive personnel, that ain't it. And so when they got that 4th down stop in the 4th quarter, they started going tempo. And it felt for the first time like there was some dynamic aspect to the offense. They were breathing life into what they were trying to do, and it was fun to watch. But unless they can find more ways to kind of give them those sparks, schematically, formationally, whatever, I think it's going to continue to be frustrating watching this team try to play offense.
Yeah, they are built, or they have the mindset, Carmichael and even Joe Lombardi when he was with the Chargers, that we are hyper efficient. We are we're kicking your ass with 5-yard gains. And this is what we're doing. Choice routes and pound the rock over and over and over. But they're built to be explosive. This Saints team, even with a leaky offensive line, should be looking for ways to push the ball, to be creating yak opportunities. And play action does that, even quick hitting play action, RPOs, something like that. It doesn't all just have to be deep dropbacks, but those deeper play actions get these guys going, get them pushing the ball, and that helps out your run game, which has it's been non-existent for stretches this year. And that's because the offensive line is just so banged up. So I think that, just remember some of these old Sean Payton teams. The jet sweeps of Brandon Cooks. Like they did other stuff. They did motion. They had this as part of their DNA.
With Jameis. Yeah, the offense they ran with Jameis when Sean Payton was still there. Heavy play action. They're pushing the ball downfield. And it's just like, okay. And if you look at the numbers for the season overall, the Saints are pushing the ball. They're not one of those 5 air yards per attempt sort of teams. But there have been multiple games this year. One was his first game back after the shoulder. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt in that one, where it's just Alvin Kamara, 15 targets, short of the sticks every single time. But now we're 2 games removed from that, and you can see that he can push the ball downfield. Yeah. So them reverting back, and him reverting back specifically, Carr I'm talking about, to the version of him that is the most frustrating version of him, where it's ball out, ball out, ball out, ball out. It's really hard to watch. And you combine that with the static aspects of this offense, and you get this final product that is gross. It was just really difficult to endure for those first 3 quarters of the game until you found a little bit of a spark there in the 4th.
Yeah. And all those checkdowns, it's technically like fine. You know what I mean? Like, yes, if a coach said you wanted to get, hey, I hit that check down there, that's all good. That's a fine B answer. But that's the thing. The other team knows that you're going to throw a bunch of checkdowns, so they get no depth and they just wait for you to throw checkdowns. And so those turn into 2-3 yard gains. When you watch other offenses, even watching like the Colts with Anthony Richardson, they know that that guy might throw those deep balls. So they push way back, and then he checks it down and goes for a 14-20 yard gain. That's the thing, is they're expecting it because they know he's not going to push it. So if you're just going to like matriculate and try and do that, you're not creating anything. You're not giving yourself any breathing room. And when your run game goes 5 for 22 on first and second down in success rate, 5 for 22.
You can't win that way. Yeah. Not against this defense. Not against
that's why the tempo drive was so great, because they pushed the freaking ball, and that's what this offense needs to do. They have to live with, hey, we're going to give up some sacks. Like we talked about with the Rams, they can't operate like the Rams do because Carr is not Stafford, and also just some of the like how they operate. But they have to, if they want to push the ball, they have to live with some sacks, and they can't live in this like single, double, small ball world. They are the 3 true outcomes team. That's how they should be living, and that's, I mean, to me, that's Jameis, but. I mean, he's the 3 true outcomes king.
The offense I keep coming back to, and maybe it's unfair to keep comparing every offense to this one, but I think if you look at the personnel that they have, it's not outlandish. They have good players, but not great players. It's the Lions. And you watch how the Lions operate in some of these situations, 3rd and long specifically. If it's 3rd and 13, the Lions are game. Like there's no giving up on 3rd and 13 if you're the Lions. They're going to run the shit out of Dagger 6 times on 3rd and long over the course of the game. And there was 1 3rd down, I believe it was early in the 3rd quarter, where it was like 3rd and 10, again, after a first down run that went absolutely nowhere. The Jags are playing quarters, and they run just a deep inbreaker from the number 1 receiver. I believe it was Olave against the quarters corner. And there's nothing pulling there's nothing pulling the linebacker down. There's no high-low happening. The corner's just sitting on it.
Yep.
And I'm watching that happen. It's like, you don't have to live this way. 3rd and 10 doesn't have to be a give-up play where you're either checking it down or running these static, just not lifeless designs on 3rd and 10. Like, this can be a place where you still feel aggressive when you're still pushing the ball down the field. It doesn't have to be over. And for this team right now, it feels over when they're in those sort of situations. And if you're going to run the ball for 0 yards on every first down, you're going to be in a lot of those situations.
Yeah, like the difference, like the Lions in those, especially 3rd down situations, like you're talking about the dagger play, like on that play, it's even their design is just more dynamic. They have a drag route underneath as opposed to a check down. Technically,
they did that exact thing against the Bucs last week. They did the exact play.
That's the line. That's how the Lions do it. And technically, it's the same thing. Technically, that is the check down, but it's a freaking receiver on the move as opposed to a guy chip helping and then running a little out route. And this is, I've been in offenses that have done both. You need guys moving. This is what, again, now it's just, I've been Rams pilled again. But just watching what they do, it's the same stuff. I mean, but seriously though, but like their passing game's awesome. So like just watching all their high lows and everything, theirs are dynamic. They have crossers replacing the underneath routes. They have, I mean, all the Shanahan guys do a good job of this, but that's what it is. It's just that little bit of design twist. And that's what the Saints don't have. It's motion, which is the pre-snap element. And that's just a simple way. But then the post-snap element of just tweaking what guys are doing what. Just don't be so traditional. They're very traditional with everything.
And then you have Carr's responses in the 4th quarter. I mean, I understand that they quit on that route. I understand that.
Yeah.
But, and I understand Kamara probably didn't read that right. You're not in a place 6 games into your career with this team where you could be showing up these guys.
You're not paid.
Like that's not exactly. You're not paid. You're not Aaron Rodgers. You're not playing well enough to do this. The ball that he went nuts on to Olave sailed 20 yards out of bounds.
Right.
Like, what's he going to do about that? So that aspect of it is a little bit frustrating. So we'll see what happens. I think that there is enough talent on that side of the ball for you to feel like there's a path out of this and there's a path to better days. We've seen them. Again, they've been more dynamic than this for stretches this season. Tonight, I think, was just a particularly frustrating performance.
Yep.
And I think made more frustrating by how well the Jaguars defense is playing. This is not just about the Saints offense and kind of those underwhelming elements of who they are. Top to bottom, all 3 levels right now in Jacksonville, no Tyson Campbell today.
Yeah.
And they still felt like a suffocating group on that side of the ball because of how well they're getting after the passer, how well their linebackers are playing. And again, another 3-4 plays from Andre Cisco before he got dinged up. He's playing like a potential like all-pro player on the back end.
He really is. I probably if I did a half season team, like he'd be leading at least that second team.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
I know. I can't wait. So, but just how many times did you see? This is when you know a defense is playing well. This is like those mid 2010s Seahawks teams. It's just that they tipping the balls to their teammates on go balls and fades, and that's why the pick six happened. Those tip balls.
The reaction from the corner on that pick six, where he's immediately celebrating as soon as the ball goes up because he knows.
Yeah.
I've lived this life so many times.
Yes, yeah.
I've lived this life so many times where I'm watching the 05 Bears or the 2012 Bears.
You can have any more opposite like football ethos upbringings. Like I was all offense, no defense, and you were all defense, no offense.
You just feel it when defenses are playing that way. And we've talked about this a lot with the Browns this year, where you can just sense the confidence.
Yeah.
And when you're getting your hands on the ball, and it's just the combination of rush and coverage. Like I think part of the reason that they feel so comfortable playing that aggressive and that downhill is that they know that the guys up front are going to get there right now, especially against the Saints offensive line. Josh Allen was great again tonight. So there's just this cohesive feel to all three levels of who they are right now. And you're seeing it. I mean, I talked about it a lot this summer and this offseason when we were discussing some teams that were underwhelming defensively. The Chargers, the Browns, the Packers, where you have all this theoretical talent. And then when you watch it in practice, it just, you can feel something missing. It's just not there. The opposite is also true. When you're watching great defenses, when you're, I don't think the Jags are the Cowboys or the Browns or whoever yet, but when you're watching really good defense, you can feel it. You know what it is when you're experiencing it. And I think this was one of those games again, where the Jags are inching closer to that. Yeah. And as their offense kind of works through whatever these growing pains are, it's really nice to be able to lean on that side of the ball in some of these moments.
No, having a QB and having a defense is a pretty fun formula. Like that's a pretty good formula. And like I again, this Jags offense has these moments of frustration. They again have a turnover, and I mean 2 turnovers today. One was the special teams thing that's happening now, where they're just throwing teammates and the punt returners.
It's a great strategy. It's totally within the rules.
Yeah.
And so for those of you guys who didn't see it, the Jamal Agnew fumble in the first quarter, the Saints gunner essentially shoves the guy blocking him into the punt returner. We saw the exact same thing happen on Monday night with Ja'Sir Taylor from the Chargers. And apparently Ja'Sir Taylor did it against the Broncos last year. And it is something that reporters have asked about, and the Chargers have been open about, like, yeah, we teach them to do that.
Oh yeah.
Like that's actually something that we coach.
Yeah.
So the fact that that's becoming more and more prevalent is something to keep an eye on.
Well, special teams twist, all 3 sides. This is great. No, but anyways, I was gonna say with the Jaguars, it's just like they're so close. I mean, they have put together some really good stretches of football. I really think this is a very good football team. I really do, and that's with that line kind of up and down this. But they have nice moments too, and they're coming together and they're gelling. And I think that's the best way to describe it. Their offense is gelling, but their defense is like already here. Like Mike Caldwell is doing an awesome job. We talked about it earlier today on the show. It's just he's fun because he's funky. He changes up what he gets and what he presents every week. And they play with an attitude. They play downhill. Their safeties are playing awesome. Their linebackers are playing downhill, and also they just are ass kickers against the run. It's very fun formula right now for the Jaguars, even if at times it is frustrating.
Which is nice, that formula, because I have them in our wins league. If they had lost this game tonight, I'm at my in-laws' house. They have a pool. I just would have walked into the pool with my clothes on. But you just saw me floating in there instead of doing this show, just contemplating everything about my life.
Oh my God.
I don't know what I would have done. I truly don't know what I would have done. The 15 targets production for Chris Olave was enough to send me off the ledge today. So if the Jags had lost that game, it would not have been a good time on this show.
It's so frustrating having them, because it's just like it's just like, you could just throw it to them. It's like that's the thing. It's like throw it to them. They're gonna go, well, we gave him 15 targets. It's like, well, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
He's running off so much. He's running these kind of lifeless vertical routes. Right. Like run a comeback with my guy. Like just let him use that speed to add something to the offense rather than running all of these like half-assed clear out routes. Like it's just not the way that we should be using
cardio routes. It's just unbelievable.
Go look at everything that go look at everything the Bills do with Stephon Diggs, and just graph that onto what you want Chris Olave to be. Just do it right now. It's not that difficult.
It's unbelievable. Just it feels like it should just be. I don't know. I get it's frustrating when like defenses are like, oh, we're going to cloud the guy, but it's like, yeah, when you, I don't know, it's like you feel like there should always just be gimmies to at least give him like 3-4 good touches. You know what I mean? Like give him a chance. You know, but
There were
sometimes
some of
he's not gonna
those,
get
and
a-
a lot of it wasn't great tonight, but still, the usage and the
Yeah,
way that this offense overall looks and his place within it, it's not very fun. And
I know.
still, the
They just
Saints
weren't
almost won this game.
great.
Still, they
Unbelievable.
were one Foster Moreau drop, and I don't want to put this all on Foster Moreau.
No.
Still, one drop from winning this game. Oh, all right.
All right.
What an exhausting night that I didn't necessarily anticipate. So that was fun. I'm gonna say it was
Yeah.
fun. I don't know if it was, but
Yeah, Al was kind of like he was. You could see him, feel him kind of starting to drift, and then it's like he was like, "Oh, the crowd's coming back alive," and it's like, well, him too. Like Al's kind of like using that as his own way to talk about himself. But it was pretty interesting. But yeah, I think I had fun. I think
there was enough. There was
Yeah.
enough.
What
Well,
did we
this
learn? What
Jags
did we
team, I
learn
think,
here?
will continue to. I don't know what we learned. I
Take
truly
one
don't know
for
what we
reading.
learned.
What did we learn?
We
here?
did a show today, and we did a little gimmick. We're talking about all the teams with 3 wins or 3 losses, and whether they were serious or unserious for the rest of the season. We were taking them seriously, and I think I landed on sort of serious for the Saints, and I don't necessarily feel that different in this NFC South with the way that their defense can play.
Yeah.
The trepidation in my voice when I was talking about them, I still feel it, but I don't think I'm landing in a different place because the defense is still really good. The defense can still carry them for stretches, and I do think that there is a gear that the offense could potentially reach with the talent that they have. They're just not reaching it right now for a whole host of reasons.
That one little, whatever, 80-something yard drive, that little taste it keeps you coming back. That's what it is. Always in like
Just
a little like
stupid man.
it's I was not sold.
I'm still not sold, but I still think the defense is good enough in that division for them to be relevant over the course of the rest of the season.
I'm saying still unserious from it's my answer. Still it stays the same. So both of us are unmoved, I would say, from feeling moved or unmoved.
If you have not listened to that show, it is available on the Athletic Football Show podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts, our Week 7 preview. So please go check that out. Please come back and spend Sunday night with us right here on this channel, breaking down all things Week 7. Some good games. We got Lions, Ravens, Eagles, Dolphins, so much stuff. It's going to be great to dig into on Sunday night. So please come back and check that out. For now, that is all we've got. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.